There we go, I think. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? You've just tuned in to a live developer interview sort of deal with Fatshark, the developers of Krater, which you will be seeing some pictures of here, while I interview Victor, their lead designer.
Hello.
Why don't you introduce yourself a bit? What do you do?
My name is Victor Magnusson. I work for Fatshark. We're a small developer from Stockholm, Sweden. I work as the lead game designer for the game Krater.
Alright, so why don't you tell us a bit about Krater?
Krater is it's a top-down RPG. We tried to make it to feel like a classic old-school game, like Baldur's Gate, Fallout, old Diablo stuff and stuff like that. It's a mix of somebody on our forums wrote today that it's like if Baldur's Gate, Fallout, and Diablo had a baby, this would be Krater, sort of. But it's not. It's the thing that makes it a little bit hard to explain is that a lot of people compare it to Diablo, but it's not really Diablo. We have some parts of Diablo in the game, like the loot system and that we randomly generate all the dungeons. But it's also very much like Baldur's Gate in the way that you visit towns, talk to people, get quests, and stuff like that.
Okay, so is it like Diablo where it's real time, or do you pause the game like in Baldur's Gate?
No, that's another way that it's similar to Diablo, since it's 100% real time. And so, the what we wanted to do was create a party-based game in real time.
Okay.
So you have full control of all of your three characters at any time. You don't have to select one of the characters to use their abilities. They are all sort of you can micromanage them in a way that you can move them individually, but you can also always have direct access to all of your characters' abilities.
Okay. So it's a bit like Dungeon Siege almost, where it's like a
Yeah, a little
Diablo.
bit. Yeah, a little bit.
All right. So it's all about killing monsters and getting fat loot, or is there anything else to it?
There's very much of the killing monsters and getting fat loot sort of bug in there, but there's also we wanted the exploration to be a big part of the game. So traveling around we have like a overview map that you travel around on, and we wanted it to be really like you could go to to find sort of hidden gems on the map and stuff like that, and visit towns and talk to people. So it's a little bit more of an RPG than maybe Diablo is in that fashion, that you actually speak to people and you help them with stuff, where Diablo is more of just a killing monsters, and where like Diablo is the main
Yeah.
focus in Diablo is just getting loot. There's also the focus of store.
There's a bit more of a universe to explore in Crater, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Why don't you tell us a bit about the setting of Crater? It's a bit different.
Yeah, we since we are from Stockholm, Sweden, we wanted to put the game in Sweden actually, and we thought that this is something that really hasn't been done before, and we thought they would give us a really unique and different sort of setting and vibe to the game. So instead of putting it in post-apocalyptic America somewhere where you
Washington,
game,
D.C.
yeah,
or whatever.
exactly,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah. We decided to, hell, we're Swedish. We know Sweden the best. Why not put it in Sweden? And it sort of automatically gave us a different look to the game and a different feeling and a different sort of, without having to sort of come up with like random names and make believe stuff. We could just use Swedish names and stuff like that, and it gave the game a really a unique feeling and look.
Yeah. I guess to a non-Swede it would be almost like fantasy, where elven names are kind of weird and different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we thought. So all those things that if you don't know Sweden that good, it's just going to be like we came up with this
Yeah.
sort of names and stuff like that. But instead of making up fake names, we're using like real names.
Alright, that makes sense. How long have you guys been working on this game?
A little bit over 1 year, like 1 year and 2 months, I think. The first check-in was, I think, in March of last year, something.
Okay.
So it's been a pretty fast development.
Yeah, it kind of shows in the game in a way. I hope I'm not being rude or anything.
No,
But it
it's-
feels almost like the game has been released a bit too early. I mean, I've played a bit of it, and it feels a bit rough around the edges. What made you guys release the game so early? I mean, have you gotten pushed by
we're a
the...
really small studio, and we this game was self-funded, so we sort of came to a point where more or less had to release the game in order to.
So you ran out of money?
Not out of money, but we
yeah.
have we had a deadline and we need to keep it sort of. It was, I mean, we would have loved to keep working on it for another year or 2 years, but we just don't have that kind of money to be able to do that. And we feel that the game is I mean, there's a lot of value there for $15. So we feel that it's we're not trying to like rip off the customer, and we're gonna keep working on the game. We're gonna keep updating it and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, we really don't feel like it's in a shape where it's unplayable or anything. We had some bugs and some stuff like that, but I think almost any PC game that gets released has that. So
Yeah.
I don't feel that it's we're doing anything different than anybody else.
Ah, that makes sense. So, what are your plans for, post-launch? Are you going to keep updating the game, patching it, or?
Yeah, we're doing it constantly. We've already patched 3 times in the first week, and that was just some small sort of stuff that just when you're doing a PC game, it's really, and if you don't have like masses of money to be able to test it really thoroughly, it's there's going to be stuff with different configurations of the computers and stuff like that you're going to run into, and it's really hard to sort of predict what's going to happen. So
I can understand
I think we've gotten rid of most of the really nasty bugs. So right now we're trying to work on just filling it with more fun stuff. We're adding we've had like millions of ideas during the development of the game that we just didn't have time to do.
Yeah.
And the plan is to keep adding it to the game. We see the game as a game as a service, sort of like a free-to-play game, but without being free-to-play. Yeah, but where you keep adding stuff, sort of. It doesn't have, I think with the way that Steam works and how at least the PC games works, there's no reason why you would just stop adding stuff to a game, even after launch. So I think it's the way of the future, and I think it's a really cool way to develop a game, since you can listen to your fans and the people that are playing the game and ask them what do you want to see more of, and just do that sort of.
So do you plan on releasing some sort of expansion packs or DLC as well, or will it be mostly free sort of stuff? Or
there's going to be free DLC, and there's going to also be paid expansions.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure when it's going to be we're going to do the paid expansion, but it's going to be sort of almost maybe like 2/3 or 1/3 of what you get for the original game in like story wise and the scope. And it's going to be like, I don't know, $5 or something. I'm not really 100% sure. We haven't really discussed exactly how much we're going to pay for it. And I would guess that it's going to take us maybe 6 months or something to finish.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, there's also multiplayer. It's going to be enabled soon, or patched in later or something like that.
Yeah, we have been all along during the development of the game. We have been working on a multiplayer part, or a co-op part at least, but like 2 months before we were going to launch the game, we realized that we didn't have time to finish the game and the co-op part. So we decided to take it out and finish it up, because it would have been extremely buggy and not really. So we decided to take it out, and as we could sort of take it out and give it away later on as a free sort of it's a standalone part. So but we're gonna be adding co-op in the end of the month. It's at the beginning of next month, July 10th, I think is the day.
Okay.
And that's gonna be like sort of like playing like doing dungeons in a MMO sort of.
Okay, so in the multiplayer, will you be controlling one character, or
you're going to be controlling 3 characters as you do in the main game.
Okay.
And everything that you sort of find, all the loot and stuff that you get in the campaign mode, it transfers automatically over to your single player mode. So you can be playing your single player game, and then at any time you can just opt in to go to co-op, and then you're transported into a co-op session with either a friend or somebody through Steam. And you do like a dungeon. I think of it sort of, and when we've been talking about it, we're talking about it sort of like Left 4 Dead or a instance in an MMO, where you sort of select a campaign and a chapter, and you play that chapter, and then when you're done, you could either go back to your game or you could continue playing. And everything that happens there, all the loot you get, if your characters get injured or die or anything, it's gonna stay for your single player game as well.
That makes sense. So you don't actually play the main story in multiplayer then, but
No, we
it's
felt
dedicated multiplayer content.
exactly because we felt that it would be impossible to, since you have three characters each, it would be uh, very extremely hard to sort of tweak it to be able to play well for one player as well as two or three or four.
Yeah.
So what we feel is the best way to go is to do special content for co-op missions, sort of.
That makes sense. There are too many games out there which have really half-baked single-player campaigns just because you can play them both in single-player and co-op, so they're kind of
Exactly.
not good for either.
No, exactly. That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
It feels like, I mean, it's sort of more like you play Call of Duty and then you go and play Spec Ops. I mean, it's Spec Ops is fun because it's done to be playable for two
Yeah,
people. It's
yeah.
not done to. It's sort of, yeah. So that's how we feel about it.
Okay.
But also with the expansions, we are planning on releasing PvP and stuff like that as well.
Oh, yeah.
But that will be later on.
Okay. Well, that might be nice, I guess.
Yeah, I think it could be really fun and crazy. I mean, I think it could be a really cool thing, and the game is pretty sort of skillish since it's very
Skillish.
yeah, it's very
Like skill based or
yeah, skill based. Yeah, you
yeah.
had to, since it's there's a lot of microing that you can do. I think it will be pretty cool to play in versus mode.
Yeah. Okay. How many how many hours of content are there is there in the game right now?
What was the question?
How many hours of content, or like how long is the single player campaign if you play it through? How many hours will that take?
It's really hard to say exactly. I think that one of the first guys that completed it in the Wii was one of the guys who've been playing the beta. He did it in 11 hours.
Okay.
I can do it in maybe, if I play, I can do it in like 6, 7 hours. But if you do all of that, that's only like the main campaign.
Yeah.
Like if you just go straight to the main story of the game. I would guess for like a first-time player, it would be maybe anything between 20 and 40 hours of gameplay, I think.
All right, and that's for like $15.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, value for gameplay hours, it's a pretty good deal, I guess. And of course, it depends on like if you rush through the game or if you go do all the side
Exactly.
stuff.
I mean, there's lots of side stuff. There's hidden quests and stuff like that that you won't find unless you really go after the beaten path and stuff like that. So it all depends on your play style, and it also we sort of the way we sort of balance the game is that if you rush ahead, it will become more difficult for you. But if you take it slow and sort of stay in the same area and grind a bit, it will become easier for you since you have better stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's how most RPGs work.
Exactly. Yeah, but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I know.
So
I'm just
it's really hard to say just sort of, okay,
Yeah.
it's 10 hours. So
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So, how many people work at Fatshark? How many guys are you?
I think in total we're somewhere between 35 and 40.
Okay.
It depends a little bit how you count. I think we've been about 12 people working on Krater.
Okay.
And then we have a second team that is working on a game called War of the Roses for Paradox.
Yeah.
And I think they're like 15 or 12 or 15 on that game as well. And then we have some people that are sort of on both projects and then we
Okay.
also have the engine that we're using for playing Krater and War of the Roses is called Bitsquid, and they're a daughter company to or sister company to Fatshark.
Okay.
And they sit in our offices, but they're sort of separate.
All right. That makes sense, I guess.
Mhm.
So, what kind of, or like, what inspired you to make this game? Like, what was the like overall thought behind it from the start?
I think from the start it was just we sort of missed the Baldur's Gates and the Fallouts, and we're sort of starting to get a bit sad that most of them are, when they're redone or something, they're done into a first-person shooter or similar, and it's sort of, why aren't people making these games anymore? And
Yeah, I definitely
Why
think
not
there's an
try-
audience out there. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know, why not try to do it and do it a little bit different and just see if we could do something that's not sort of exactly the same way, but still has the feeling and the vibe of those old games that we all grew up playing.
Yeah. So, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's definitely an audience out there for that kind of game
Yeah,
still.
yeah, that's what we thought as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are the audience, so I think we
Yeah. It's always nice to see
well
a
people that
develop.
like this kind of games. So we were hoping that there will be more.
Yeah, it's always nice to see a developer sort of make the game they want to play instead of what the corporate people think will sell well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh, yeah. So how was the reception for Krater been so far? Do you know?
I think it's been pretty mixed actually. It's some people really get it and really like it. Some people think it's a little bit weird and because it is kind of different. We don't treat levels the same way as other games. Really, we don't really we don't even call them levels. We have ranks on your characters so they can rank up. We have permadeath and we have stuff like that. That's sort of some people really like and some people just find it annoying and or weird or don't really get it.
Yeah.
So I think it's been mixed, but I think we've been getting really good feedback from our fans and on our forums has been extremely positive. I was sort of shocked because I was really afraid of the Steam forum sort of they can get pretty nasty. Steam
Yeah,
forum.
that's true.
But our Steam forum is, I mean, it's so far so good, which is yeah, it's been really good. So it's really cool to see that sort of that people really. Some people really dig the game and think it's really cool and unique and yeah, something that they sort of been wanting to play for a long time.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it is definitely different from other games out there. I mean, it's very nice to see color in a game for
Yeah.
once. What made you guys decide on this type of aesthetic, like the art style?
It's I'd give that to our art director Anders, or creative director actually. He's the whole gas mask thing is something that I don't know where he got from, or where, but he has always loved gas masks on characters. So that's just his style, sort of. I think he's been working pretty long in the industry. He's been working for Dice and Gwyn and stuff like that. And I think
Okay.
he's sort of just been waiting to be able to put gas masks on all the stuff like that. And but the having it very colorful and stuff like that was something that we sort of all agreed on from the get-go, that we were really tired of, as soon as it was going to be a post-apocalyptic game, it had to be gray, sort of.
It had to be brown and blue.
It had to be brown, and yeah,
Yeah.
so and we've just been sort of all the time saying, okay, we have to more color, more color, more color, more color, color, and sort of like that. That's,
Yeah. Doesn't it sort of clash though with the theme of having post-apocalyptia and then having colorful graphics, sort of almost cartoony graphics in a way?
I don't think so, because the one of the reasons was that we sort of, if the world sort of, or civilization would sort of crumble, um, um, the vegetation would take over. So I
That's
don't
true.
think it would be very gray. It would probably be very green.
Yeah,
So
that's actually true.
I think it's humans that makes the world gray. Sort of, if we would just step back, it would probably become pretty colorful. So that's why we did it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
I mean, if you watch like there's this documentary on Discovery where they sort of envision
Like
how
the world without humans or
it
whatever.
takes us, yeah, it takes us
Yeah,
1 year or 2 years, and this vegetation takes over everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did see that. So yeah, are there any sort of major regrets that you have about the development? Things that you really wish that you could have put in, or something you would have done different if you had a chance to go back?
Oh, there's a lot of it, but it's I mean, I, I'm 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 actually really proud of the fact that we did something that doesn't feel exactly like another game, but also that sort of it's also made it a lot harder, I think, than it needed to be.
Hmm.
Because since we tried to do it differently, it's hard. You have no, you can't really, okay, this is how they do it. Let's do it the same way and stuff like that, which I think is something that games do a lot. But that also is something that I'm really happy with. But
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I wish we had 6 more months before we had to release it so we could polish it. And it's really a shame to see that when we release it, there's people having trouble and stuff like that, and not getting it to start, and just silly small stuff that that's sort of,
Yeah.
it's nothing that we sort of want to have, and it's just something that we really. I mean, but it's hard to sort of. We don't have infinite amounts of money. We had to sort of. We had to.
Yeah, I mean, it is a business after all. I mean, you're
Exactly.
not doing
Yeah.
it as a
Exactly.
hobby, but yeah. Well, yeah, that's a pretty good answer, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I think we would really like to have, like a lot of people have been asking for more skills and stuff like that, and I would have loved to do more skills, but it takes time to do it. So yeah,
yeah,
I think that there's oomph, and there's how much stuff is possible that we could just put in there, more enemies, more
the,
stuff, more quests and stuff like that.
yeah. There's always something else you can add, even if the game is finished. There's
Yeah.
always more stuff you can add.
And one sad thing with game development is that you sort of, when you release the game, that's when you finally have all the tools and all the stuff ready to
Yeah.
really do the cool stuff. And so hopefully we'll be adding it through DLC and through expansions and stuff like that.
All right. I guess we will open up for some questions then from the viewers.
Sure.
The first one here, what's the background story? Like, what's the overall
Uh,
background story, I guess?
the background story is that sometime in the future, there's a sort of a global war, and most of humanity is knocked out. And there's I'm not really sure if I should, but there's some form of facility in the area where the crater is right now.
Okay.
And one of the last things that happens during this war is that they try to destroy this crater. No, this facility, and the crater is sort of created through that when that's happening.
Okay.
And and then we fast forward a couple of thousands of years, or 500 years or so, and we end up in where we are now. And crater is a sort of people were living in the wasteland, and then they stumbled upon this huge crater somewhere in Sweden, and it was really fertile. And when they started moving there and started sort of cultivating it, they noticed that if they started digging in the ground, they could find this high technology stuff that was buried underneath the crater. So people started moving there, and a society was sort of established, and people go there to sort of, it's like a Klondike sort of setting. It's like the Wild West sort of. They go there and they dig stuff up and they sell it to neighboring sort of countries or
Okay.
parts of civilization.
So it's almost like a parallel to the gold rush, but instead you're digging for forgotten
Exactly.
technology.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So yeah, and when the story begins, you arrive at the crater. You're sort of the new guys in town that have just gotten there, and you're sort of trying to establish yourself as one of these teams that go down into the center of the crater and pick stuff up and make money that way.
Okay.
You're sort of a mercenary, and we think of the player as sort of the leader of the gang that you don't see. He's the guy controlling the characters, and he's doing all the decisions. The characters are just there as like his henchmen or whatever you would call them.
Okay, that makes sense. There was a question up here. Since the game is set in Sweden, are there like many Swedish pop culture references that people who aren't from Sweden might not understand? Like, is there sort of in-jokes that are only Swedish, so to say?
Yeah, I think so. But we've also added. There was a risk to do it too much, sort of, that we would have ended up with a game that only Swedish people sort of understand the jokes in. But I think that's not a problem anymore. But it was a bit of a worry. But there's lots of Swedish references everywhere. So Swedish people would sort of have they might understand some stuff that non-Swedish people don't understand. But I think most of the jokes and references and stuff they're more international than sort of Sweden.
All right.
But there's in the first town you come to, it's called Norrmalm, which is a part of Stockholm, and you come to, and there's a doctor there. His name is Dr. Alban and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see that. That's pretty funny. Will PvP have permadeath?
I think we haven't sort of we're gonna start really sort of nailing how we're gonna do PvP. So far, it's sort of just in the concept phase, but I think that we're gonna have one mode where permadeath is put on, and how it will work is that you have it on, and then there's a leaderboard, and So you know that the guy who's on top of the leaderboard, he's like the only one that hasn't died.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we're gonna have. I think if we do it, we really need to have it as an option. You need to know that you sort of what you're getting yourself into, and I don't think it would be fun for everyone, but I think some people really would enjoy
Hmm.
it. So
Yeah.
yes, I would say yes.
Okay. So how does character death work? I mean, if all your characters die, do you
Mm.
start over from the beginning of the game? Is it game over, or can you find new characters, or how does that work?
If you're playing casual, the characters don't die. We have three game modes. It's not really difficulty because the difficulty in the game doesn't change. It just sort of changes how death works in the game. So
Okay.
in casual, you can play and your characters can't die. They still get injuries and stuff like that, but they don't die from injuries. In normal mode, you can get knocked down 3 times, and when you get knocked down the fourth time, you get an injury. And if you
Okay.
have more than 3 injuries, that character dies. In hardcore, you get an injury every time you get knocked down.
All right.
And in normal and casual, if all of your characters die, you will end up in the town, and you will get a set of 3 new characters, but they will be the sort of the worst characters that you can find in the game.
Okay.
In hardcore, we're gonna sort of let you fail, or you're gonna game over.
Game's
If
going
what?
to end. All
Yeah.
right.
But you have a roster of characters, so even though like 3 of your characters die, you can still have more characters that you can take from. So if 4 characters die and you're in an instance, they spawn back into the nearest town or safe zone that you were in.
Hmm.
And it's part of the game is recruiting members to your roster, so you have sort of a backup guy if one of your characters get injured with something serious that sort of that maybe you don't have enough money to get rid of, or if it's permanent, or if they die, you have a backup.
Okay. Do you get to keep the gear from your dead characters? Like, can you loot
Right
them?
now they don't, but they're supposed to. So it's actually, but yeah, the weapon and the gadget, which is 2 of the things that they can carry around, they're supposed to end up in your inventory again. They lose all the implants and stuff and boosters that are stuff that you put on them to enhance how their abilities and their stats work. So yeah.
Okay. Let's see if we have any more questions from the chat here. Oh yeah, how does the crafting system work? I mean, the crafting has been a bit hyped, I guess, in the trailer and everything. So
Yeah, it might have been a bad choice of words, sort of. But what we meant with it was that we meant that we see our sort of our characters as items as well. So what we meant was that you get sort of a empty shell of a character, and then you can fill him with implants and boosters, and we see that as you sort of as a crafting system in itself. And then we have a separate crafting system for making items and boosters, implants, and gadgets and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the other crafting system is very similar to maybe World of Warcraft or something like that, where you find a blueprint and then you go to a vendor or like a crafting table, and you have all your blueprints, and you need to find crafting materials and you build stuff with it.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. Do you get the reagents from just killing monsters, or?
Yeah, killing monsters, and you can also loot stuff in the environment. Sort of, we call it static loot, which is sort of you loot like an old computer or something like that, and you will find some components and stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah, so mainly it's by killing monsters or doing quests. You get quest rewards as well.
So do you need sort of like gathering skills to, for example, loot a hard drive from a computer or whatever?
No. It's on by default, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. We had plans on having it as a like the skill where you can loot computers and stuff like that. We had it as a gadget in the start, which we equipped, and that would make you able to loot stuff. But it's sort of after a while we realized that it was just pretty silly because you just put it on, you loot stuff, and then you take it off.
Yeah, it was just a
Put
bit
something else like that.
tedious, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really didn't make the game more fun to play in any way. So we just decided to have it on at all times.
Okay. How many? Hang on. How many skills does the character have, and can you switch them out on the fly?
Each character or each class of character has 2 skills. You have there's 4 classes, and then there's 2 versions of each class. So there's what's that? It's right math. So there's 16 different skills in the game.
Okay.
But each skill can be augmented by the use of boosters, as we call them. And boosters can either they can add healing, or they can add damage, or they can add a buff or a debuff, and stuff like that. So you can really change. I can change my sort of my crowd control character to become a damage dealer as well. Or I can add damage to my healing spells, and I can add sort of a strength buff to my AOE taunt, which buffs all the characters around him and stuff like that. So I can,
All right.
instead of sort of handing the player here's 20 skills, do what you want with them, we sort of, okay, here's some we wanted to create a system that lets you sort of we have like this is how this skill sort of delivers whatever it does, but then you can change it to become sort of what fits your playstyle the most.
All right. That makes sense, I guess. So it's there's a bit of customization, even though there kind of isn't in a way. Like I don't know. How does character progression work? Like when you level up, what happens to your character? Do you, I mean, since there's only a set amount of skills, what do you unlock when you level up? Or
you unlock first when you the first time you level, you unlock the gadget slot, so the character can use a gadget, which is sort of a third skill that they can have.
Okay.
It could be a grenade, or like a healing instant healing thing, or it can be there's like a speed booster and stuff like that. And then also when you level up, you unlock a implant slot, which lets you implant the characters with a stat increase.
Okay.
And then, which is sort of our way of doing the whole sort of, okay, I level up and you get like 5 points to distribute. But instead of giving the player like 5 points and distribute them, we let them change them at any time. So you can craft these implants as well. So you can sort of you can reuse your same character over and over, and you can change the spec of the character at any time by just slotting a new implant into him.
Okay.
And then also these booster slots that lets you change the ability, they also open up at set intervals as the character levels up. And we also have a different qualities of characters. So we have common characters, and we have uncommon and rare characters.
Okay.
So even our sort of we didn't only put like rarity stuff on the weapons, we did it on our characters as well. So that the common characters, which are the one you start out with, they can only go to level 5. And then that's sort of how and the levels really only determine how many upgrades you can put into that character. So they or rank 5, yeah. Thanks, Riskera. But yeah, and then so that would sort of limit how good his max potential is.
Okay.
But then the uncommon characters can go to rank 10, and then rare characters can go to rank 15. We are adding, I think, even next week. This is a system that we didn't have time to finish before we released, but we're adding a boot camp, which will let you level up or rank up or promote your characters so you can go from common to uncommon or to rare.
Okay. So there's a bit of like I don't know, like almost like loot almost in the way the characters work.
Yeah, we wanted the characters to be sort of like loot. But you go to a recruitment officer in the town and you recruit them whenever you want to.
Okay, you can't find any laying
there
around in missions or anything?
There are some really rare and different characters out in the world.
Okay.
But then they have quests and stuff like that you do, and you can get them.
Okay, that's kind of cool. And
that is something that we really sort of want to expand on even more. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, this is a good question. What about replayability? Is there anything that'll make me go back and play the game again?
Well, all of the dungeons are randomly generated, or not all of them, but a lot of them are. So they are. We have a sort of like Diablo does it, or like Torchlight does it. It's we have modules that we sort of put together in different ways. So you can definitely replay it, but I like the story and stuff like that won't change. But I think you could play it first on casual or first on normal, then try it on hardcore and stuff like that. And also and the game won't be exactly the same. And also I would say that you can play it again and sort of try with a totally different setup of the team and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I guess there isn't that much else to say. Do you have any last thoughts about the game? Anything you want to say?
Go buy it. No, I don't know.
It's available on Steam, right? Can you get it anywhere else?
Yeah, you can buy it on Steam. I think it's available on Gamersgate, and you can also get it on our website. So, if you don't, some people for some strange reason don't want to give money to Steam. I don't understand why, but you can go to our website if you don't. If you feel like that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Victor.
Yeah, it was cool.
All right. Bye bye then.
Bye.